What is an energy vampire? How do you detect one? Do you have one in your life? And if so, do you want to keep them there? Or what do you do about it? This is what we're going to be talking about today, about energy vampires. Let's get started. Hi everybody, my name is Patty Hall and we're going to be talking about energy vampires today. And what is an energy vampire? It could be a place, person, or a thing. It could be your work environment, it could be where you're living, it could be just all different types of places that you could be around, so pay attention to that while you're watching the video. And it could be a thing, it could be a habit that is just draining you, a bad habit that is draining you. It could be something around you that is just draining your energy. Pay attention to that as well. But today we're going to focus in on the people around you and your circle, possibly at your work environment, and see if possibly they're an energy vampire or a toxic person that may or may not want to be in your life. So get your pencil and paper out and we are going to get started. When you have an energy vampire, we sort of think of something leeching something out of you. And that's what basic energy vampires and toxic people do. And it's more of a behavior, and it's something that can actually change depending on if somebody wants to or not. So we're going to discuss a couple of things. What is an energy vampire and what are they looking for, how to detect them, some of the signs that you might watch for if you have an energy vampire or toxic person in your life. And lastly, we'll talk about how you fix it, or can you fix it. So we'll go through that each one. So let's talk about really what is an energy vampire and what are they looking for. So they're basically somebody that they sort of latch on to people that are more compassionate, more sensitive, always looking for the good in people, that kind of a thing. They like to latch onto those because they know that they're very giving and helping people. So why not go to them? And then if there's no boundaries or balance of an establishing a boundary, then they will call you day and night, night and day, 24/7 if you let them. Is a negative person a regular person who's negative or has a negative day or some negative things happening in their life? Is that really a toxic or energy vampire person? No. We all have good and bad days. We all have negative things that happen to us. We all have positive things that happen to us. But we're going to go through some of the traits of what a energy vampire is. But what I wanted you to keep in the back of your mind is this leech is just stuck to your arm and it's sucking the energy out and it's getting fatter and fatter and fatter and it's living off of you. You're the host, basically. Okay. So how you want to detect some of these energy vampires, there's a couple of things. Some of them intentionally do it. Some of them know that they're doing it. It's sort of a manipulative thing. The other energy vampires don't have a clue that they're doing it. A lot of it could have been ingrained through generation of generation. Just the way that their family structure was, the way that they watched their grandparents, their parents, and all that kind of thing goes on. But it's sometimes willing to just feed off of you being able to be there to listen to care, to give them advice, that kind of a thing. And they just keep coming back for more and more and more. It's sort of like an addiction to sugar. You keep wanting to come back for more and more and more. No, I'm just joking. Anyway, so let's give you some. Now, if you're one for taking notes, this is the point where you want to get your pencil and paper out, because there's going to go through some things, and then you can sit back and say, do I have this person in my life? Or if you have somebody come to your mind for any of these things, maybe go back and analyze your relationship with that person, that boss, that friend, that family member, whoever it is. All right. So A couple of different, there's a lot of them, there's so many of them, but here's some of them for you to sort of pay attention to if these persons are doing this in your life. So they always seem to minimize your issues, and theirs are always much bigger. So they sometimes will compare. So if you had a bad day and you just need to vent or just need to share with somebody, this is not the person you want to do it with. This energy vampire, this toxic person, they're going to always one up on you. They're going to say, well, I had a bad day. My boss yelled at me, and then I came home and the dog just was sick all over the floor, and I'm just exhausted. And they're going to one up on you. Oh, their day was even much worse. Their day was much more tragic than your day. Okay, so this is one of the things that a energy vampire does. They also can use guilt trips or ultimatums. Well, if you don't come over to my house, then I just, I don't know what I'm going to do. I won't have anything to eat, and I'm too tired to cook. This guilt trip of constantly doing this to bring in, this is a manipulative behavior. Okay, and you might see somebody do it very slightly, or maybe getting more and more to be an energy vampire. So really pay attention if somebody's playing little guilt trips on you. This could be from time to time, and this can grow even more and more in abundance and a daily thing. Okay, ultimatums are always a condition of more toxicity, more destructive behavior. This is something that would not be acceptable and actually good for your psyche and your health and your mental well-being. Ultimatums are not an act of love or a higher vibration. Another trait is that they like to criticize rather than lift you up or support you, or just say, oh, or even just be empathetic. They'll criticize what you do because they always got to remember, one up and look better than you. They've always got to seem to be better because there is a lack in their life. There's a lack of something. We don't know what that is because you got to get to your root. They've got to go through probably counseling or therapy or something of that nature to get to that root to find out what they're lacking. Maybe there was some trauma, some PTSD in their past, or maybe the lack of having parents there. I don't know what that is, but the thing is, there is a lack there. So they always have to use some type of intimidation tactic. So whether it's criticizing, bullying, putting you down, being belligerent, those kind of things. There's something missing in their life that they are trying to fulfill, that's not your job to fulfill. All right. They also get dramatic, and they get over emotional or make things bigger than what they are. How you can find out about that, and we'll talk about that, how to fix it, is that you just have to look, is this really fact, or is this sort of like a storytelling time? So if you are, say, at work and somebody tells a story about, or somebody gets your attention, an energy vampire gets your attention about somebody, and maybe somebody just took some time off because maybe they were sick or whatever, but they go above and beyond. Oh, did you know they have this? Or did you know that this had this? And then they create more gossip and story to make it look more dramatic. Energy vampires are very good at that, of making things look a bigger deal than what they really, really are. What this does is creates also a chronic stress. So they're always under some kind of stress. So if you're thinking of another one, this is another trait, is that they're always under chronic stress. Well, this happened to me. Oh, my car broke down. And then tomorrow, oh my gosh, my dog ran away. Oh my gosh, my socks got a hole in it. It's always under constant stress or chronic stress. Nothing ever seems to relax in their life. And it maybe they're going through, you're like, but Patty, maybe that's just somebody going through a bad situation. It's times where we go through those things, okay, but they usually end. Okay, so with a energy vampire, it never ends. Okay, so So another couple behavior things that you really want to watch for with an energy vampire is not only the way that they verbally speak, but where they non-verbally speak. So in communication, we speak actually 67% of our language with non-verbal communication. So a lot of this comes from cues. We call them cues that they give you. All right, so nonverbal and verbal. This is how they hook you in. Right, so let's look at 3 major things that we look at when we're looking to try to detect an energy vampire. And these things aren't the only things, but I would say if you're still new to finding out what an energy vampire or a toxic person is, basically it is these 3 things. So number 1, it is making excuses for everything. Now, they might make an excuse here and there for just a really honest thing, but most of the time there's an excuse why they didn't do something, why they did do something, or why they shouldn't be doing something, or why they said something or didn't say something. And this is actually taking the blame off of them and putting it on somebody else. But the excuse usually either is hiding something, is being manipulative for some reason, or it can be just destructive. And it becomes old after a while. The person who is a healthy person will begin to realize you got an excuse for everything. And so you basically want to look into why they're making an excuse. Is this something really legitimately that they have an excuse for? Oh yeah, we had to go to the emergency room. That's a legitimate excuse why maybe somebody was late or didn't show up. Oh, I just forgot. Really? Okay. So really pay attention to that. Okay, excuses. Point number 2, blame. They blame you for everything, or they blame so-and-so for everything, or why they didn't do it, or what, if you would have only, or if that would have only. And when you put blame onto somebody, it begins to get old if you keep you're the one getting blamed for everything, or they never take accountability or responsibility for anything. Why not? Because they're an energy vampire. A toxic mindset is what it is. And we'll talk about the end of the toxic mindset here at the very end, and if you want these people in your life. But the thing is, really pay attention to blame. In your conversations with your bosses, with your spouses, with your boyfriends, with your girlfriends, here's a tip to really pay attention to. How are they starting conversations? What do you mean, Patty? Well, do they start their conversations by, well, you did this, or if you do that, why can't I do this? Or if you only would have done, whenever you put the word you in front of something, that removes the blame off of self and places it on somebody else. Very big red flag. Pay attention to this. I would say number 2 is the biggest point. Okay. And number 3, nothing ever just seems to go right. Why is that? I don't know, but it is a mindset, and no matter, even if the best thing happened, they could find something negative in it. So let's take an example. So you go on vacation with somebody, you had a wonderful time, it was fantastic, you're in a mindset of positive, and you'll say, how did you like the vacation? We had oh yeah, we had a fantastic time, but that food was crap, or the transportation was just not on point, and wasn't it expensive? They'll always find something negative. Okay, so really be mindful of these 3 points. 1, excuses. 2, blame. Place the blame elsewhere. And 3, always looking to something negative. Okay, the last thing I'm going to mention, which sort of plays into toxic people or energy vampires, is pride and ego. And people are saying, well, Patty, that really doesn't go in with this. Yes, it does, because where does pride and ego come from? Fear. Where does pride and ego come from? Being lower vibrational. And what it means is your root, what you grew up with, your foundation, your childhood. Everything that was put into your head, again, your mind is a sponge. You absorb it when you're young. All right. So let's look into two different things. Okay. I keep mentioning energy vampire and I keep mentioning toxic people. What are they? Here's the thing. With a toxic relationship, it definitely comes from a form from childhood, from your core foundation of when you were growing up. And an energy vampire can be learned even later by the people that you hang around with, like that old saying, birds of a feather flock together. These kind of things can be formed even later. So you really want to detect who is negative in your life, who is always blaming other people, who is not taking responsibility and making excuses. Back to the same basic three, right? A lot of it has to do, in communication and everything. Communication, actually 67% of what you communicate and I communicate with is nonverbal. Can an energy vampire be nonverbal? Yes, they can. That they talk, or not talk, but the way that they move their body. And have you ever walked around somebody who's been happy and they're just, oh, yes, But then you walk around somebody that is always like, and always frumpy and just grouchy and never says a word, but that energy is bouncing off of them and onto you. And have you ever been in a room or even at work or anywhere where you're with somebody who's always angry, always grouchy, doesn't say a word, just whatever, doesn't have to say anything, but just the energy that bounces off of them? That is their body language. Energy vampire? Yes. Now when they speak, it even could double fold because now they're using words. Words are extremely, extremely powerful. Okay. And when we do listen to somebody who's very toxic, here's the thing. If it's confusion or if it's low vibrational being destructive, that's an energy vampire. Because you don't, I'll get into that, but you just don't want that around you, okay? So another type of energy vampire, of course, is verbal. Somebody who's verbally abusive, somebody who is just sucking you dry with blaming you for everything. Again, you have to remember an energy vampire as a leech. Sucking it right out of you. And also their actions. An energy vampire. What do you mean by actions, Patty? Well, a lot of the times an energy vampire could be somebody who promises you things and never shows up. Actions speak louder than words. Okay, so if you promise somebody and you don't do it, you just suck some energy out of them, bringing their vibration down, bringing their, like, well, why didn't they come? Why did they show up? Anything of that nature. Okay, and it's trying to be manipulative to turn it again around on you. When actually reality, they need to be accountable and responsible for their actions. However, what they're doing is twisting it and making it more like you. There's that blame thing again. Okay, so we can have it through nonverbal, we can have it through verbal, we can have it through our actions, our body language, and things of that nature. All right. And then lastly, do we want an energy vampire in our life or in your home? Somebody who's a couch potato, somebody who doesn't productively help around the house, somebody who isn't invested in you as a person. The thing is, we have to look at time and ourselves as precious commodities, and our time is priceless. So do you really want to have this negative person, this toxic person, this energy sucking person in your life? That is a question I can't answer. We are meant to be beings here to be productive, be successful, be loving, compassionate, and caring. The number one thing is loving. So if somebody is going to be manipulative, blame you for things, and pull all the energy out so that you're tired, you're fatigued, you've lost hope, you're depressed, and that kind of thing of nature, what good is that doing you for productivity and for your journey and where your life should be? Okay? Divine doesn't have us here so that we can be sucked dry and then be left for bones on a desert. That's not what we're here for. The person and the people in your life should be lifting you up, supporting you, helping you, and filling you with energy, not energy sucking. Have these people that are supporting you, helping you, lifting you, and raising you up in your life. An energy vampire doesn't do that. What do you do? What do you do? And how do you recognize if you need to do anything? If you got to this point and you even answered some of the traits of any of these, maybe even 3 of these things with a person in your life, and they're not being supportive, so this is one of the things. If they have to be manipulative for themselves and are not being supportive for you, again, this is an energy vampire. So when we're dealing with energy vampire or a toxic behavior, we have to look at how we can help ourselves through this process. And how we do that, there's a couple of ways. One, we have to establish boundaries with them. Okay, and it is a lot, like I said in the beginning, some of them are needy and want you all the time. Sometimes they need you just once a day to just, dump on you rather than vent, so that they can suck the energy out of you, the emotional energy out of you, and then get your advice, and they go walking away really full and happy, and you're like, oh, I am just so excited. This person is just draining me. Okay, so setting your boundaries, saying, hey, you know what, I work from 9 to 5, and when I get home I just really need to relax. Also, there's a thing called don't pick up the phone. Don't pick up the phone. Every time it rings, it doesn't mean that you have to pick it up. If you are not in a place to talk to them, don't. Okay, but again, setting your boundaries, okay, with that person, and making sure that once they go step over that boundary, then that's not respect. And again, they're trying to one up on you all the time. So saying, hey, you know what, I need you to respect these boundaries. Otherwise, I just sort of have to back away. All right. Another way to help with energy vampire and back off from it a little bit is adjust your expectations of them. This is something that they've done for years. This is something they need help with. This is not for you. You cannot control. You cannot heal them. You cannot help them. You can point some things out, but are they going to listen? Probably not, because it's like somebody in addiction that is not ready to get clean. They're not ready. You can bring that horse to water, but you don't make them drink. If they're not ready, and if they cannot even see it, how are they going to actually help themselves? So you have to set those expectations for yourself. And gradually what will happen is that person, if they're not getting that advice, then they'll go away. Okay, because they got to go find and get it somewhere, because they need that. That's like their food. They have to have somebody to leech onto. Again, they need a host. And if you're not going to be their host, they'll go find another one. The other thing is that you can do is just don't give them an inch. Again, we go back to, if you don't want to pick up the phone, don't pick up the phone. If you don't give them advice, then they're not going to come back for it. And if they start to use these manipulative and these guilt trips and stuff like that, just say, nope, not going to do it. Yeah, and you have to have more strength and courage in that to help yourself. Okay, get through that. And lastly is one of the things that might have to happen is distancing yourself from that person. And doing it in love, in kindness, because you realize that they have something that is missing in their life that they have to go to another person to find, which they never will, or make them feel better. It doesn't. It might be an instant gratification, but it goes away. That's why they have to keep coming back for it. So knowing that they've got to go and figure that out, sometimes distancing yourself is the best love and kindness that you can do for yourself and them. And then you also are not enabling their behavior. especially if it's something that they noticed, or maybe they're beginning to notice that they're doing it, but they still do it anyway. Okay, so sometimes that's the last thing that you might have to do. I know that this from experience. In my past, I'll tell you a real quick story, that is what I had to do. So when I was, gosh, I think I was just turning 30, I was like 215 pounds, and I decided that I wanted to work out. And my trainer said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "I've always dreamed of bodybuilding and being on a stage." And so he says, "Let's shoot for it." And a year later, I was on stage at 215 pounds. But during that interim, I had to make some tough decisions with some energy vampires and toxic people in my life that were not for me, they were more against me. One of them was a family member, and the thing was, I went through all these different things. I tried to establish the boundaries, but the negativity was there. The guilt complex was there. The codependency was there. And the criticizing was still there. So I had to distance myself. For a year, I had to distance myself. And plus, they weren't on my side, because the thing is that they would say, "Oh, you'll never do that. Oh, you're going to diet. These are types and forms of energy vampires. Because they want you to stay stuck where you were, because they're stuck. Okay. So, and I wasn't going to stay there. I had another friend that I had to distance myself from, because the only thing we had in common was going out and drinking and dancing at night. And I knew physically that wasn't healthy for me, but she would call all the time to go and do that. And I finally had to say my expectation had to cut it off. So sometimes we might think of distancing ourselves as a really hard thing, but once you distance yourself, you'll actually find you'll have a lot more energy, you'll feel a lot more release, you'll feel a lot more relief, and you'll be able to sleep better at night. However, just the ending of my story was after a year, and it was my mother who had seen the form of me change mentally, physically, and everything. She then began to believe me and started to come on my side, because again, she was missing something, but this was something from her. So I would definitely often pray and meditate for her to find that peace in herself. So that's what you can do as far as energy vampires. And energy vampires, again, lastly, need to recognize these behaviors in someone around you and decide, is this healthy for me? Because you need to protect your health being not only your physical health, because this can create stress, a lot of stress, not only for your mind and your spirit, but also physically. Because once you're under stress for so long and it's chronic, year after year after year after year, it does take a toll on our organs. So this is something that you really want to think about, look into, because over time it can be very detrimental and also put somebody into a depression and anxiety and things of more unhealthy. And that's not protecting yourself. You are only one of you, and this is something that you want to do for yourself. So that is what an energy vampire / toxic or toxicity type person behavior is. I hope this has helped. I hope it's giving you some tidbits, and that I hope that helps you in your journey. And I hope you watch other videos that I have on the channel. And I wish you the best and blessings and love. Take care.
I hope this video was helpful, and for more videos from Transformation by Divine, please click on the link below or check out Transformation by Divine on YouTube. Thank you for watching.